So Adam, well, first of all, thanks a lot for having your time for part of our media.
Absolutely.
We've been doing some research, and we learned that your first golf experience was as a kid on a trip you went to Augusta National.
I did, yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
So how cool is to begin, your first experience on a golf course, let's say in a place like Augusta?
So it's not exactly accurate. I had played golf and was a good golfer. It was the first time I'd ever gone to Augusta, and I was young. But I had been to many other golf tournaments. But going to Augusta was, as a kid and loving the game of golf, being able to go at a young age was incredible. And then, to fast forward to the first time I caddied there, and I believe it was in 2005 or 2006, I think 2005, to be able to caddy at Augusta was great. And I think this year was my 15th year caddying, 15th Masters. So it's been awesome, seeing it as a kid, the changes that have been made there, and then now obviously working for a great player who won it is like, that's dream material.
We will go to that later on. Your relationship with Torrey Pines began in 1998 when you caddied there for the first time.
I did, yeah. Exactly. I caddied for a friend of mine there.
Correct, exactly. And when did you realize that you were, looping as a profession for your life? Because we heard that you were having another option that was becoming an insurance salesman.
Yes, yeah. Yep.
So maybe the world has lost an incredible salesman for you.
No, I don't think so. I think I ended up in the right place, because I don't know that I'd have been too good at insurance sales. I would have. I enjoy being outside. I love the game of golf, and so to be able to be around it for 25 years now, caddying, I definitely made the right choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what drove you to take the decision of doing caddy instead of being a player?
To not playing, I wasn't good enough. Okay. Probably. I was good, but there's a lot of things that go into, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, to be a professional golfer. You had to have financial backing and things like that, and I didn't necessarily have that. Talent-wise, I might have been good enough to play, but I just didn't have the financial backing to last as long as I needed to last to be able to get the experience to be a successful professional. So with that being said, I didn't really want to get a desk job, inside job, and I got offered to caddy for a few weeks, and I fell in love with it. And that's kind of how it just turned into a job.
Yeah. Then you started to caddy for the Ladies PGA Tour.
Yes.
For 4 seasons, more or less.
Yes.
And then we heard from you in another interview you did in the past that you are not a real caddy until you get fired.
That's right.
Exactly. So how did it help you, in that moment, because it must be hard, and we would like you to share with us what was the Scores for Floors thing that you were doing in that time.
Yes. So on the Ladies Tour, it was an amazing place to start caddying. I was very fortunate to work for a number of different women who all had a lot of experience, and so they taught me so much about being a caddy, and how to, the proper things to do and such. But also the ladies, and still to this day, the prize money wasn't as much, and the pay wasn't as well as it's kind of grown in the game, and so to make kind of ends meet and to get by, we had to share hotel rooms. Sometimes we'd have 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys in a hotel room, and most of the time there's only 2 beds in the room. So I don't like sleeping with another guy in bed, and the other guys probably didn't want to sleep with me. So we started this thing. It was just scores for floors. So the best scores of the day, those 2 guys got the bed, and then the other, whoever was left, was on the floor.
That was kind of a tough school, that maybe helps you today to value what you achieved.
It was amazing, yes.
And it helps you value what you achieved today and the comfort you got on your profession today.
And then, that's one thing with caddying is, sometimes caddies lose the lose touch with reality in a sense that, you're, as a caddy, you're really only as good as the player you're working for, right? And so, you do help the guys out along the way, and you do help them, and eventually as a team you grow and you have success together. But starting on the Ladies Tour and having to share rooms with guys and just making no money, and then to be where I am, I've been fortunate enough to be now, it helps remind you, of reality, and to not lose touch with where you came from, so.
And then soon after you changed your well, you were fired basically by the dad of a lady.
Yes.
Which sometimes happens. Yeah. But then it was kind of a blessing because you got your first victory with Bon Taylor.
That's right.
Pretty soon in Reno that same
year. Yes. Yeah.
How do you recall that first win on the PGA Tour? Must be something really
amazing. Yeah. And Vaughn was a good friend of mine and still is to this day. And so we played some college golf against each other. We played mini tour professional golf together. And then to be with him, for it wasn't his first professional win, it was his first PGA Tour win. He had, won at other levels of professional golf, but to win on the PGA Tour with, at the time, probably one of my best friends was incredible. And then was able to go back to Reno the next year, and he won again the following year. So it was 2 years in a row in Reno, and it was awesome. And that kind of led the way for him to make the Ryder Cup team in 2006. So go from getting fired on the ladies tour to, having a very, good finishes on the PGA Tour immediately, and then a win was, life-changing.
And exactly. It's curious how sometimes life can bring you what is looking like a bad news, and then it can transform into something incredible.
That's right.
Because your career has been amazing until today.
Totally.
Then you, since that moment, you have seen some great things on a golf course. So can you tell us about that hole-in-one that Jay Bird made in Las Vegas?
You have done your research.
Well, yes, thank you. In 2010 in Las Vegas, there was a playoff for that tournament.
There was.
And the fourth playoff hole, something incredible happened when Jay Bird went from the tee on the first shot. Can you tell us about that?
It was amazing, first of all. But the funny story about that was we had played 3 holes, and the referee had come in and was gonna stop it for the day because it was getting dark.
Okay.
And I don't know, I kind of was half making it up, but there was a layer of clouds just over the mountains there in Las Vegas, and it looked like it was actually getting brighter. Now, whether it was or not, maybe it was just me wanting to get done, or but they were like, oh yeah. The other guys were like, yeah. Well, and one of the guys, I believe, Martin Laird, was going to China that night, so he needed to, he wanted to get finished also. So, okay, well, let's play one more hole. It was a par 3, and so Jay Bird was the first one, stood up there, and the rest is history. Yeah,
we got the video. We will put the video for the readers on the new, because the play is absolutely amazing, because the player is absolutely shocked. But
well, the thing is all the spectators had
nobody.
They haven't left. They were there, but they weren't letting the spectators down by the green. They were keeping them all up around the 18th green and the 17th tee box. So there was a lot of people there, but there was nobody by the green. There was only the cameraman in the tower, and there was one volunteer kind of standing over to the side. And so where that whole location was, it was just over a little ridge, and it was getting dark, so it was hard to see. So it took there was a delay that we weren't sure if it went in or not. And then once there was a big television screen next to that tee, and then we knew from that it had gone in the hole. So it was
an incredible moment.
Yeah, incredible.
Then you caddy for Russell Henley as well, and then you make a bet, a decision that completely changed your life. But at that moment, it was a really brave decision, because you were deciding to caddy for a guy that was looking like a great player, college golf, incredible player, but then he was the 126th player ranked on the world ranking. So it was kind of a tough decision. We would like to understand from you, how did you got the job? Because we heard that you are very, very thankful to another legend, which is Bones, the caddy from Phil Mickelson. Can you tell us about that story?
So Jon was obviously a amazing amateur golfer, had all kinds of success, and he signed with, at the time it was Lagardère, with the sports agency, and it was the same agency that Phil Mickelson was with. And so a lot of times that's the way caddies get jobs, is word of mouth through other caddies and agents. And so Bones was given the task to maybe find a couple of candidates or guys who he thought would be good fits for Jon.
The scouting basically.
Yeah, scouting basically. And this guy, he had asked me, at some point during the year that, obviously Jon was going to be turning professional. He's going to play. I knew who he was. Everybody knew who he was, and wanted to know if I would even be interested. And I just said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I loved Russell Henley, and I still do to this day. He's still a good friend of mine. And the backstory to that really was, my wife was doing very well in real estate, and I was kind of half deciding whether I was going to keep caddying or not, or be home. We had just had our second child. It was hard for me being away, her trying to work, and with the kids. And so I was actually thinking about possibly stepping away from caddying, either quitting or retiring. Thank God I did not.
Thanks God you did not.
And so it was a great opportunity at the end of that season to go with Jon. And I went into it with the mindset that I was going to give it my all, 100%, which I always do. And if it didn't work out, that was okay. Like if Jon didn't like me, or we ended up not being a good team, he didn't have the success, and he wanted to maybe try or hire somebody else. So that's my mentality when I went into it. I wanted to work for Jon. I wanted him to have success, but there was no pressure I felt on me to, because I was maybe going to be done caddying anyways, at least for a period of time, until the kids got a little bit older. So yeah, it worked out, and then the last 9 years have been incredible. So it was a good decision.
But you were looking for more relaxed time, and then you got a roller coaster.
Yes, and I wasn't 100% sold or committed to quitting caddying.
Yeah.
But I was just at a point in our life with the kids and my wife to where it would have been okay for a few years to step away. So yeah, luckily I didn't.
Thank you for that decision.
Yeah.
So then we go to 2016. You have your first tournament with Jon on the Safeway Open in Napa.
That's right.
And then something really spectacular happened. Jon made his ever first hole-in-one in that tournament.
That's right.
He not only made the first hole-in-one himself, so there is a conference press of him saying that it was the first time he ever sees anyone doing a hole-in-one.
Wow.
Because in college golf, he never saw anyone doing a hole-in-one, and this was a very special moment.
Yeah.
So what do you recall from that moment, if you recall anything?
Yeah, I do. I remember it very clearly. We were playing with...
he finished 15th tied, by the way.
Yeah, we finished 15th.
Yep.
So we were playing with the two other players, had both got up and hit beautiful shots. It was actually that's the 11th hole at Silverado Country Club, was our second hole of the day. We started on number 10. And Luke List hit it about, 3 feet from the hole. Beautiful shot. And then I think it was John Huh was the other guy we were playing with, and he hit it 3 feet. And this isn't a short hole. It's a 7, 8 iron type hole, so it's not a wedge you're hitting. And Jon was like, wow, two good shots, And
no pressure.
I did say to him, I said, man, there's still plenty of room up there for a golf ball. And and it flew right in the hole, and it was early in the morning, so nobody was there. Again, another hole in one where nobody was around. It seems to happen that way. But there was a couple of volunteers, and they threw their hands up, but that was another one. We didn't really see it, but we knew that went in, and so and then he told me after he made the hole in one, that was the first. I said, "There's no way that you've never made a hole in one before," and he said, "No, seriously, I've never made a hole in one." Yeah. So that was pretty incredible.
So 2017, your first victory together appears again. Torrey Pines connection, which is incredible. So the Fireman's Insurance Open, and that was a demonstration of maturity in terms of game and in terms of playing skills from Jon Rahm. So he finished his last round with 2 eagles on the 13th and the 18th.
That's right.
And we really beg you to tell us about the second shot on the 13th, because that never was broadcasted.
Yes.
And we heard from you in another interview that this was the best golf shot never broadcasted on TV.
Yeah.
So please tell us about that, because we know it was amazing, but we never saw it. So
it was
be your eyes.
He hit a pretty good drive, but it ended up in the right fairway bunker, and it was a perfect, very good lie, not too close to the lip. And at the time, Jon played a long iron that had a little bit of a wider sole on it, so it was good for hitting it out of the rough and out of fairway bunkers. He had no problem hitting it high. He could do all kinds of different shots with this club, and so we were talking about laying up or different, and he goes, I think I can hit this on the green. And I said, yeah, I think you can too. Like, who cares? At the time, I think we could look back, but I bet he was probably 5 or 6 shots from the lead at that point, maybe 4 or 5. So we had nothing to lose. And hit a beautiful, it was unbelievable. I mean, it came out with perfect height right at the flag. It really was an incredible. That was one of those things where you're like, wow, this guy really is special. The shots that he can hit and the power he has. And so, hit it, made the putt, made eagle, and then I don't remember exactly. I know he made a couple more birdies finishing and then the eagle on 18, which was incredible also.
Yeah, well, and that putt on the 18th almost caused us a heart attack because it took like forever
to get there.
To get in the.
That's a very popular putt.
Yeah.
Guys have hit it for years on the PGA Tour. It's a very famous final round hole location at Torrey Pines, and so I had seen that putt up. I say 100 times. I've seen guys hit that putt, and on TV watching it in practice rounds, guys hit it. So yeah, I kind of knew what it was doing, and the TV said, his caddy Adam Hayes helped him read this putt. Well, I didn't really help him read the putt. I mean, Jon hit the putt. I just told him that where the hole location was this time was just a little bit more, maybe one step than it normally was, and I just felt like it was gonna maybe break just a little bit more at the end, and that's really all I said. So I didn't read the putt for him. I mean, he read the putt, and I just kind of gave him a little something there at the end to think about.
How did you guys work on that? I mean, who's making the decision? It's a joint decision.
Yes, it is. But the thing that makes Jon Rahm the best, in my opinion, is his accountability. He's very accountable. He knows that it's his decision. Pretty much every shot he hits, he has the final say, right? Because he's over the club, over the shot, and if he doesn't feel comfortable in it, then he knows he shouldn't be hitting it. Does that make sense? So,
yeah.
It makes him accountable, and so that's how we do it. I give him the information, the distance, how far we think it's playing. If we want to be a little past the hole or short or right or left, and then from there it's really on him, to pick the club. And he'll ask me a lot of times, do you like a 3/4 8 iron, or do you like a straight or 5 iron, or whatever it might be. And my knowledge of his game, knowing approximately how far that ball goes, then I can say, yeah, I like that, or no, I think we need to hit it a little harder or softer. But ultimately, 95% of the time, it's Jon's decision. So,
all right, then 2020 and 2021, 2 key victories came. So the Memorial Tournament, when you guys reached the #1 on the rankings.
Yeah.
And then it came the US Open, first major, again in Torrey Pines, which you guys are totally linked to that golf course. At this very moment, it is so the bet you did 4-5 years before to play with this 126 ranked player, it started to pay back to you. So it's at the moment when you realize, hey, I made the right decision. This guy is going to be a legend.
Yeah, I knew after winning Torrey Pines was huge. But then later that year, he won the Irish Open.
Correct.
And kind of at that point when he was, we went to Europe. That was the first. I don't know if that was the first European Tour event he played. I don't think it was. I think maybe we played in. No, I think we played in
Spanish Open.
No, you played. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I'm bad with the history, but I think we had played in France at the French Open, and then he went to the Irish Open. But winning the Irish Open, that's when I kind of knew that Jon. I knew he was special. I knew he was going to be a Hall of Fame golfer. But when the way he won that tournament, and I was like, I knew then that. Even really before that, I knew I made the right decision, but every time he won after that, it kind of reconfirmed that, I was glad I kept caddying.
It kind of felt like taking a huge weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, for sure. The first win really at Torrey Pines, because, I got to be honest, Jon played his first, I believe, 6 events as a professional. He might have missed 1 cut, and he had a couple seconds and thirds and played really well with his college teammate and his good friend on the bag caddying for him. And then, he hires me, the tour caddy, who's supposed to help him with this success. And he finished 15th his first event in Silverado, 15th in Las Vegas, and then we went to Mexico to Mayakoba, and he finished 30-something. So then we had the off season, the winter, and I tell people all the time, I didn't sleep real well that off season because, I felt like Jon was such a good player, and then he, all of a sudden now he hasn't finished in the top 10, and he was, having chances to win. Yeah. But then when we got to the next year, started in Palm Springs, and again he finished maybe 30th. So I'm like, this guy's not playing very good with me caddying for him, And so then the win at Torrey Pines was a huge weight off. I think off of my back for sure as a caddy, but I think off of Jon's too. Just okay,
we can do it.
We can do it. And then so from then it's been great.
Then it comes 2023, the Augusta Masters, where we were discussing, preparing the interview, hey, what do you think that is the best golf shot that Jon has ever made? So we came to an agreement after a few weeks of discussion that for us it is the second shot on the 14th hole on Sunday.
Yeah.
So the one that he goes to the right side of the fairway with the rough, exactly. What meant to you to win the Masters as a caddy, and not only from Jon's perspective, but as your feelings that day?
I think yes, the Augusta is a special place. It's been very well documented how guys get emotional, and it's a hard place to win. It is the smallest field of all majors, though. So and if you're looking at it from a percentage standpoint, it's probably the easiest to win, but it's the hardest also, because it's such a great place. By winning it, you get a lifetime, basically, membership in a way, invitation to the tournament. You get the champions dinners, all those things that come along with it, and all the majors are special, but that one's very. I would say I'm not going to say the top, but it's amazing to win Augusta, and for him to win. It was, because I knew in my little pea brain, my mind, I'm like, he will win Augusta. His game's perfect for it. He will win a Masters at some point. Now, I didn't know if it was, then or, 10 years from now, right? But I felt very confident that he would win at least one Masters in his career. So to be able to be the one caddying for him when he did it, was special. So.
He had an amazing and beautiful words for you on the award ceremony.
Sure.
That we saw some tears on those blue eyes you have. So it was a very, very special moment for all of us, but for you it must be something really awesome. Incredible. Yeah. Do you agree on this? This is the best golf shot he ever made on a golf course? Because our discussion...
it's hard to say what's the best. Honestly, I've seen Jon hit so many incredible golf shots. I will say this, in the moment, to be able to hit that shot was, it took a lot of, you say like guts, and courage to hit that shot. Yeah. So it was very impressive, and it really, I felt like freed him up to go into those last 4 holes with a little bit of a cushion. So not that you can never relax around Augusta, but it gave him a little cushion to be able to play those last 4 holes a little bit more freely. So it's certainly in the top 3 of the best shots I've ever seen him hit.
Do you recall the conversation you guys had on the 18th hole when you were on the fairway approaching the green? What a caddy tells to a player that is about to win the Masters for the first time? What words can be helping in that moment?
Well, it was great because he hit such a poor first tee shot, when off the trees, and I actually did see it come down. To the right, and then he got up and he hit a provisional, and he hit it absolutely beautiful. And the funny thing is, the first one wasn't that bad of a tee shot. It was cutting back. It was actually going to be perfect. It just caught that one branch there, but either way, it kind of broke the ice a little bit. So he had a 4-shot lead. We were like, okay, take a breath. The ball's in play, no problem. And we walked up and it allowed him to be able to just enjoy the walk.
Exactly.
Up. And so when we were hitting our second shot, he was, talking about hitting a big cut shot that maybe could get on the green or get in the bunker or somewhere up there. And I just said, listen, man, you got a 4-shot lead. These people sitting there have beautiful seats. They're sitting there. If we hit it over there, we're all going to have to move. It's going to take all kinds of time. It's going to delay the inevitable of winning. So I said, let's just hit an iron up there, and then we'll get it up and down, and then we'll just get the hell out of here. And so that's what he did. And then the only thing I said to him after he hit the wedge shot to 4 feet, I just said, hey, I said, go finish it like a champion. Like you want to par the last hole. You don't want to bogey or double bogey the last hole of a major championship to win. So it's just kind of a little bit more probably for him a pride thing. Okay, it feels good to go out making a good par on the last hole than bogeying or double bogeying it, and kind of like, I don't know, a win's a win, but I think it makes you feel a little bit better. So that's the only thing I said to him, really. That
I remember that night, going in tears when you guys. Yeah, absolutely. I wrote to.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. Imagine. In your career, you had the privilege, or at least we understand that as a privilege, to share rounds with legendary caddies like Steve Williams, like Jim Bones McKay, Billy Foster, Joe LaCava.
Sure.
Have those guys been an influence for you as a looper, or do you have different guys that you were looking at to do your job properly?
I say this: those guys are incredible caddies, and I watch those guys, watch how they work, watch how they interact with their players, how they prepare early in the week, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, walking the golf course and figuring out the best strategy for not only themselves in their mind, but for their players. But the one thing I say about caddying in general is every day you're around at least one other golfer and one other caddy. Most days you're around 2 other golfers and 2 other caddies. So every day to me is a learning experience. I can learn from so many caddies, and I have, and and also as a caddy, every day I feel like you're almost on in a way you're like on a job interview, because players are watching what you're doing. If it ever worked out where I wasn't working for a player, then they say, wow, I remember being paired with this guy. He did a really nice job. He worked hard. He talked to his player the right way. I like that. I want something. Then that's how caddies get a reputation and get a job. So I've always thought that caddying I've always looked at it as like every day you're on your next job interview. And with that, you also need to learn. And so you learn from so many guys. I mean, there's still guys that are caddying out here that, in a way haven't had, and I don't want to say this in a bad way, they haven't had as much success caddying as I've had, but I've been fortunate just to work for great players. Yeah. But I still learn from those guys, even though, one guy might only have 1 win, or maybe no wins, but he does something. I'm like, wow, that's really like a great quality to have, or I like the way he did that or something. And then you can kind of copy and mimic those things. So the legendary caddies, the Steve Williams and the Bones and the Joe LaCavas and those guys, and there was many more before that, the Tony Navarros of the world, caddy for Greg Norman forever. I used to watch the way those guys worked, and you do learn from all those guys, from them. But even guys who aren't the most known caddies still do an amazing job for their players, and you can learn so much from those guys as well. And I have, so.
Now your career allows you to teach others, and probably young caddies are looking at you like the way you were looking to Steve Williams or Jim Bones McKay, right?
Yes. So, but I try to,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. I just always try to, set a good example, and I really feel at the end of the day, if you continue to work hard, I call it you hustle. You work. And then you treat the golf course the right way, replacing divots, raking the bunkers, taking your time, taking a little bit of pride in what you're doing. It just goes so far, and other players notice it, and it helps other caddies, helps us all be better as a whole, as a group. So.
All right. Yeah. Ryder Cup year. So the question is absolutely needed here. Yep. How did you manage to be in the European team, let's say, and being American must be hard, because we saw you really, really happy on Rome in 2023. So how did you manage that internally? Because it must be a conflict, right?
I could joke and say I've never been on a losing Ryder Cup team. No, but I have been on a losing. No, so I've said this before in interviews, you never want to be part of a losing team. All right. Right? You want to win. Doesn't matter who you're playing for. I mean, you see it in football and in, other sports where guys are, play for another country, or you don't want to be on a losing team. So I've always had that mentality when it comes to the Ryder Cups and caddying on the European side. I also was very welcomed by the European locker room when I came over. Obviously working for Jon, great player. I never felt any like hesitation from the captains or the other guys in the locker room. And I've always respected and enjoyed the way that the European team comes together. You know, the camaraderie is always very impressive to me, and it always was, even as an American when I was caddying on the American team. And so it was an easy thing to do, because I just kept reminding myself that I don't want to be part of a losing team. I want to be on a winning team. So that first year in Paris, you know, we won. It was awesome. And so, and then from then on, I've felt very welcomed, even more after that. So there's been no conflict of interest.
Now you need to choose a European country to get your passport released.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lobby for Spain.
Thank you.
Yes, I tell
Best
people.
Country in Europe, no doubt.
I tell people all the time, Spain is my favorite country that I go to. Spain, then Ireland.
Yeah.
So these are 2 big weeks for me. I'm in Spain, and then we go to Ireland next week.
People.
So yeah, you know, it's just I like all the parts of Spain that I've been to. I love it down here in the south. I really enjoy the north. Madrid's an amazing city. So I've been fortunate to go to a lot of different places in this country, and then the fans are I love their passion, you know. And
thank you.
So
thank you for that.
It's good. And then Ireland is very much the same way, where people are very proud of where they're from, and they're very passionate about their sport. And so those things, you get that energy and vibe from the fans and the people. Even outside of golf, when you go to restaurants and different things, their passion for what they're doing, and you know, so that's what makes these 2 weeks very special for me.
Thanks for your nice words.
Yeah.
Well, if you take out the food and the weather, Ireland and Spain is more or less the same.
Yes.
So, last 2 questions. When it comes to Bethpage this year, what can we expect in 2 key elements, in our opinion, which is the setup of the golf course and the crowd? So the New York crowd has the reputation of being, you know, very hot, let's say. So what can we expect after what happened in Rome? Regarding the setup of the golf course on your professional view, and then the audience.
Yeah. So obviously the hosting team, the American team, has the voice in the setup of the golf course, and so obviously you set the golf course up based on your strength of your team.
Correct.
And now there's all these statisticians and metrics that they look at to figure out how the golf course should be set up and what gives them an advantage. So I expect the golf course to be set up as an advantage for the Americans, whatever that is. It's hard to tell who their team is going to be.
More like a US Open setup?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I would expect it to be long. You know, probably firmer greens if they can, depending on the weather. Faster greens. You know, the Europeans typically, and it used to be more of an advantage 10, 15 years ago. But now there's so many of the guys on the European side are playing in America, so they're used to the faster greens, because the greens typically are a little bit faster in America than they are in Europe, just because of the weather. That's it. And so it used to be an advantage having faster greens. They'd say that maybe the Europeans didn't putt as good as the Americans on fast greens. So there's those things that go into it. So it's hard to say how they'll have Bethpage set up. But as far as the crowd, the funny thing about the Northeast crowd in America is they are passionate and they are ruthless, and they are going to have some great chants and words, and but there's a very large European influence in the Northeast as well.
Correct, yeah.
So the one thing I think I could see happening, that crowd, if the Europeans come out and get up early, I could see them kind of almost turning on the American crowd and start cheering for the Europeans in a way. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how they are. And I love them. They are incredible fans. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to hearing you know, the different stuff that comes out of people's mouths, because it is kind of funny. It's very funny, actually. And so it'll be a fun week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's going to be awesome.
You had an amazing career. You have conquered incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you dream of golf, what are those dreams? What's happening in those dreams? So what are the goals you still haven't achieved that you dream of?
Listen, I enjoy the competition. I enjoy winning. You know, winning is fun. It's kind of, you know, why else do you play? You don't play to finish, you know, top 10 or, you know, make the cut in tournaments and stuff. You want to win golf tournaments. And even if you don't win, you want to give yourself an opportunity to win. You want to be in the mix, right? You want the blood to be flowing. You want to be nervous. You want to be, it keeps it exciting. So listen, I would love for Jon to win more majors. I know he will win more majors.
Yeah.
I hope to be still caddying for him when he wins those majors. And so that's, if I dream of things in golf, listen, I would love to win, you know, as would everybody, would love to win an Open Championship at Portrush next week, you know, or Birkdale the following year, or wherever it's going to be. You know, just an Open Championship is a very special place. Again, it's another one where when you win, for the most part, you get a lifetime exemption. So for Jon, being a European, for him to win that one it'd be amazing, you know, for him to always know that he could play Augusta, know that he could always go to the Open Championship and just, you know, be this, you know, 65-year-old man someday, you know, with, who knows, grandkids or whatever, and be able to go there and be like, I won this, and that'd be pretty cool. So
indeed, absolutely.
Yeah.
We also dream of that.
Yeah.
And we are absolutely sure that you guys will be conquering more majors.
I think so.
More sooner than later. The last one, you are the envy of many men after a video you posted on your Twitter account of the man cave you have in your house with the golf simulator, the gym. So how did you got permission at home to build that? Because we want to learn from you.
So we live, we don't live we live in a town, but we live out in the country. And me being gone all the time, having two boys, it's hard for my wife to get them, you know, the nearest gym is maybe 20 minutes away. So it's just a lot on her plate to get them there to work out and do different things. And we had this space, so I just said, why don't we just tear off the back of the barn and just build out that way? And it was actually her idea, her and her mom's idea because we were thinking about building a separate building to do it. But we just took the back of the barn off and went out the back, and it turned out great. And so with, you know, knowing people in the golf industry and knew what simulator we wanted to get, and Full Swing they're awesome, and it's great. The Full Swing simulator is, in my opinion, the best because it allows you to, for kids to play a lot of different games on it. You can obviously watch sporting events because it turns into a big TV, and then obviously the golf is great. There's so many golf courses on it. So my kids are back there all the time playing, you know, Pebble Beach, Muirfield Village, PGA National, you know, so TPC Sawgrass. So there's all these courses that they can play. And then I enjoy working out. I like to try to stay fit as best as possible. So I wanted a gym. I knew my boys would want to work out someday. So I said, okay, well, we'll build a gym over here. And then right now they're big into baseball. And we had the length on the back of it. So we put a turf area. As long as they stay in baseball, it'll stay that. And if they stop liking baseball, maybe we take the cage down and just use that for speed training or something. So
it's an amazing facility.
It is amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how did you disconnect from golf? Is it easy for you to disconnect from golf because this is high stress work that you have and intense? So did you really? What did you do to disconnect?
That's part of the reason why we moved out to the farm where we live, because we lived previously and we had neighbors, you know, right next to us, houses, and I would come home and I could never get away from golf because it was, you know, neighbors and people, and they'd see me and talk and want to talk about, oh, what happened to Jon yesterday, or what happened. It's like, so I wanted a place where we could go and kind of be away from people, and so that's how we ended up there. And so my release when I get home, and getting away from golf is just being home. I go for walks in the woods. We have some creeks through our property that I'll go and walk along the creeks and just get away. And sometimes I just go get on a tractor. I've got tractors and some construction type equipment, and so I'll go get in a excavator, a skid steer, and I'll make a trail, or I'll dig a ditch, or something that's just I can turn my brain off. And then in the wintertime I love to hunt. So, and I don't necessarily need to kill an animal every time. For me, a lot of it is just being outside, being in the mountains or wherever, climbing up in a tree and waiting for the just so it's a way for me to disconnect with golf and to do something totally different. So those are just things I enjoy doing, and ways that I'm able to get away from being able to turn my brain off from work.
Adam, thanks a lot for your time, your answers. It was a really long time awaited pleasure for us.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for what you do with Jon Rahm. You really put a very special moments in our lives.
Thank you.
To what you do.
Thank you.